Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be comparing a 2021 Mazda CX-5 Grand Touring Reserve to a 2021 Mazda CX-9 Carbon Edition. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Southtown Mazda for providing us with the CX-5 and the CX-9. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Let's go into the hoods of both the CX-5 and the CX-9. Starting over with the CX-5, we have a turbocharged 2.5 liter four-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 227 horsepower and then 310 pound-feet of torque. Fuel economy is 22 around town and then 27 on the highway. Coming over to the CX-9, it has the exact same setup. So turbocharged 2.5 liter four-cylinder, 6-speed automatic transmission, 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. However, fuel economy is slightly lower, 20 around town and then 26 on the highway. So again, the only difference is the fuel economy: 20 around town, 22 around town, 27 on the highway, 26 on the highway. Go to the front end of both of the vehicles. You can see that the headlights are both popped on, and notice that they're pretty much identical with just how they are set up. But let's quickly go over to the CX-5 first and foremost before the lights pop off. So you can notice the only difference is the lights kind of have like two little LED sides that go off on either side. Oh, of course these popped off. But anyways, with the CX-9, it's only got like one little LED line off to the side. Other than that, they're pretty much identical with the rest of the look. But you guys will notice that with the hood design on both of them, they've got the body lines in the same place. The white doesn't show the body lines as well as this polymetal gray does. But coming to the rest of it, notice that the front grille in this is all blacked out. You've got the Mazda logo that doubles as a sensor. You got a little fog light that sits there on the corner. And then coming over to the CX-9, notice that the overall design of the front is somewhat similar. It's a little bit larger, a little bit kind of more on the aggressive side, but they do a little bit different with the grille. So it's not like the blacked out honeycomb design. It's kind of more of like these little like inserts that go across. Again, that also doubles as a sensor. Parking sensors on the front of the CX-9, and then notice that it doesn't have the little lights there on either side. And other than that, that is everything for the front of both of them. Now coming to the side here, let's go over the tire and wheel setup. Going over to the Mazda CX-5, we've got 19-inch wheels, 225mm tires. Over to the CX-9, we've got 20-inch wheels and this 255mm for the tires. And then actually taking a closer look, I love the coloration and design on the CX-9. And then notice that the design is somewhat similar on the CX-5, but I obviously am partial to kind of like the blacked out design that is on the CX-9. So the CX-5, I still think it looks cool to design. I just am not as in love with the color on the wheels. And then also they have the same like plastic molding around either side on the car, but the mirror has been blacked out here on the CX-9, whereas on the CX-5 it is body colored. And then if you look at everything on the side, minus the fact that the CX-9 is obviously longer, everything looks pretty similar here on the side of both the vehicles. Now let's go into the rear of both of the vehicles, starting with the CX-5. So coming into the back here, yes, we've got the floor mats back here, but the biggest thing is look at the cargo space here in the rear. And yes, you can pick this up. You can see there's the spare just underneath, and then it's got these like secret cargo compartments on the sides, which they're just cool. They're there, but notice the space here. And also you can fold down the second row by just pulling this little tab right here. That'll throw the seat right down. And then coming over to the CX-9, notice that the cargo space with this third row up is not as much as what you get in the CX-5. You guys can see the little storage space under there. And then it doesn't have the same little cubbies on the side, which is just a little bit weird. But if you actually throw the third row down, which you have to use two hands, so I'm going to try to do this with one hand. Oh my gosh! I somehow did that with one hand. I don't know. But you guys can see with the third row folded down, this does have more storage space now. So you either have the third row or you have more storage space. Taking a look at the door panel here on the CX-5, notice that you've got the soft touch shape here with all the stitching, and then it's a little bit smoother here where you're actually going to rest your arm. Again, same stitching, got this really cool trim right there. And then here are the seats in the back of the CX-5. So you can see that you've got like the nice smoother leather with the perforated leather here on the center, and it's like a bunch of little rivets here with the stitching, which pretty interesting. But we'll actually pop in. So popping in, step in height, really easy to get back here. If you're wondering, I'm 5'11", I'm kind of slouched over, so it's probably not the best example. Okay, there's a little bit better example. You guys can see my legroom as well. And then you got a couple vents right here, and this is pretty cool. So this is like your cup holder center console thing. Pull that down and you get your heated seat controls, a couple cup holders, and then you get this little area which has some USBs which are on the other side. So they're facing the driver passenger, which little bit of bias, but that's the back of the CX-5. Now popping in the back of the CX-9, notice that you get soft touch with this cool red stitching here. And then yes, you get a little sunshade where the CX-5 did not get that little sunshade. And then you get this nice piano black trim. And then the seats here, oh, I absolutely love them. So leather is definitely smoother on these seats compared to the CX-5. You got the nice perforations all throughout, a couple of rivets, but not nearly as extreme as what's in the CX-5. And then popping in, step in height, it's pretty much identical. Headroom feels about the same. Legroom feels like I've got a little bit more legroom in here. And then you can see you get that same little like heated seats here for the back, but you get your climate zone here for the rear. Couple of cup holders. Now I did get in the third row for my CX-9 review, so if you want to see me back in the third row, go watch the CX-9 review. But again, this does have a third row. The seats are just as nice in the third row. You get some cup holders, you get a little USB back there, but it's really tight, and I'd reserve it for kids. And here's the back of the CX-9. Coming to the front of the CX-5, notice that they've continued that stitching here with the cool little trim and the soft touch down below. You got the piano black trim, which has all of the window controls and the mirror controls as well. And then here are the seats at the front. So identical to the seats in the back in terms of the material use, just a little bit different with the design. And then you obviously have the bolsters here and at the bottom. Here's your adjustments on the side of the seat, and then notice that you do get the memory seat function as well. And then you can see the pedal layout right here. You've got your little gas release, you've got the release for the hood, and then you've got your lane departure assistance over here, and then your hill descent control, and then the release for the rear hatch. But here's one more look before we actually pop in. Now I'm going to give a really quick overview of the interior on the CX-5. If you want a little bit more in-depth look, then go check out my CX-5 review. But key points, really smooth steering wheel. You've got black stitching on the inside. And then notice this stuff here on the steering wheel. You notice that this is the same in the CX-9 in terms of the controls. So like the adaptive cruise control and the phone controls, voice command controls, all that. Paddle shifters will be in the same space, you'll also notice. And then you've got a little stalk for the lights. And then windshield wiper on the other side. And then coming into the gauge cluster, you can see you've got RPMs over on the left side, and then right there in the center you've got the speedo. And then you can scroll through a couple of different menus. Basically gives you different bits of information on the vehicle, like, hey, when's your servicing due? And then obviously it's a giant needle for the speed. And then coming over to the center screen, here is what the backup camera looks like on the CX-5. The trajectory lines do not turn with the steering wheel. The infotainment system is not a touchscreen, it's just controlled via this little dial, which I'll show you the dial in just a moment. But other than not being a touchscreen, it's actually pretty easy to use. You can see you've got a couple of vents down here. And then in this area, you've got your heated steering wheel, you've got your heated seats. It is a dual zone climate here in the CX-5. You also do get ventilated seats. And then notice you got some storage right here with a little 12 volt. And then here's the shifter for that 6-speed automatic, which does have a manual shift function. And then there's a sport mode, which says sport once you push it on, pretty straightforward. Here are all the controls for the infotainment system. It's got a bunch of shortcut buttons all around it with a little volume knob. Your parking brake, auto hold, and then you see the cup holders with the center console as well, which again, pretty straightforward use on all of those. And then you have this nice trim here at the top with the soft touch and the stitching at the top portion of the dash as well. And then you got a regular glove box. And then finally finishing things off here at the top, it is a lighter colored headliner. You do get a little sunglass holder up here. And then you've got a traditional sunroof, nothing too crazy happening there. And this is the interior of the CX-5. Let's go over to the CX-9 now. Now taking a look at the door panel here on the CX-9, notice that you get soft touch here on the door panel and here on the side. Just looks a little bit nicer than what's in the CX-5, and then I love the red stitching as well. And then notice this is all pretty much the same even with the piano black trim. And then coming to the front seats, again, those crazy red seats which just look absolutely fantastic. They also feel really nice to the touch. And then the adjustments in the seats are pretty much the same, except they just feel a little bit nicer. Like they're less plasticky than the adjustments on the CX-5, which is weird. Then you get your pedal layout, and then you got the opening for the hood, the gas cap, your parking sensors, your hill climb assist, lane departure assistance, opening for the hatch. So all that is pretty much the same, and there's one more look before we pop in. Now here's the steering wheel in the CX-9, and just like the CX-5, I'm going to give a really quick overview. If you want a more in-depth look, then look at my CX-9 review. But you guys will notice everything on the steering wheel is identical to the CX-5, other than the fact that it has red stitching. But yeah, you can see the paddle shifters, the stalks, all that's the same. And then here in the center stack, this is also the same. So like nothing is really different between the two vehicles here with everything on that aspect. And then coming to the little center screen, this is all the same too. Notice that the camera aspect of it is the same. It's not a touchscreen, it's controlled via the dial as well, so that is all the same. Now the dash here looks a little bit different. It doesn't have the stitching that the CX-5 has, so a little bit of a downside on this one compared to that. And then coming down below, still get the heated steering wheel, still get the heated seats and the ventilated seats. And remember, this is a tri-zone climate, so you get dual zone for the front, and then you have the rear climate, whereas the CX-5 just has the dual zone at the front. And then notice that the storage space actually has a wireless phone charger. It's probably a little bit easier to see from this side, but this right here is a wireless phone charger, which the CX-5 just had extra storage right there. And then you've got the shifter for the 6-speed automatic, which it has the red stitching on the inside. Same little sport button, so that also hasn't changed. And then look, this control area, even though like this whole section looks a little bit different, it's got all the same controls as what the CX-5 has, with all of the dials and the shortcuts and the parking brake, the auto hold. The cup holder is the same. Center console is actually different, so it opens up like this, which is definitely weird, but you get some USBs in there, and it actually feels really nice. Like the material on top of it feels nice, the stitching looks nice, all that's nice. Just kind of weird that it opens up like that. And then coming over to the glove box, lined with felts, pretty similar in terms of size and everything. And then popping up top, the headliner is black, so obviously this is a darker color compared to what the CX-5 had because it was cream colored. Still get a traditional sunroof, the controls for it, all that. So yeah, pretty similar here at the front actually. Now that we're done going over the interiors on both of them, let's quickly get into pricing. So the CX-9 stickers for about $44,000 before any type of market adjustment, and then the CX-5 stickers for about $37,000. It's like $36,700 and some change, whatever, almost $37,000 before any type of market adjustment. So you're talking about a price difference of just over $7,000 between the two vehicles. Before we pick a winner, let's quickly go over the pros and cons of both of the vehicles. So first off, let's go over styling. So I think that the styling on both of them is absolutely fantastic. The proportions on the CX-5 are a little bit nicer, but I think the CX-9 is just as good looking. So I feel like neither of them pull ahead in styling on the exterior. Now with the interior, I definitely like the interior on the CX-9 a little bit better. I am partial to the red interior, but even if you take away the red interior, the interior materials overall are just a little bit nicer, especially the seats. They just feel nicer and just look nicer overall on the CX-9. And then from a powertrain performance standpoint, they have the same powertrain. However, this one weighs more than that one, and it's a little bit bigger. So this one drives a little bit sportier. It's a little bit quicker, so it wins slightly on the performance aspect. And then obviously it's a lot less money compared to that. I mean, $7,000 is quite a bit of money. So I want you guys to let me know which one you would choose before I pick the winner. And the winner that I'm going to pick for today's video is going to be the CX-5. Now, I know, like I said, this one overall is a nicer vehicle in my opinion. However, I can't get past the over $7,000 price discrepancy. You can get so much for $7,000, and so I just feel like this is a better value. It's almost everything that the CX-9 is, just lacks a little bit. Obviously, it doesn't have the third row. If you need a third row, you have to go for the CX-9, but if you don't need the third row, this is just the obvious choice. Now that is going to sum things up for our comparison between the 2021 CX-5 and the 2021 CX-9. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to Southtown Mazda for providing us with both the vehicles. I will see all of you in that next video.